Okay. All right, let's jump into it. What is a G, and why are there 5 of them? I want that on a t-shirt. I want to make a t-shirt. What is a G, and why are there 5 of them? So basically, I'll give you the mainstream. Do you want the mainstream lovey-dovey version of 5G?
Absolutely, and I'll actually bring something up on my screen here and help you out. So,
I mean, I can read it straight from our Optus website. 5G explained via Optus. You probably heard of 3G and 4G network. 5G is the next generation. Basically, 5G is the new version of 3G and 4G, a faster network which allows us to transfer data quicker, access our Facebooks faster, download movies faster. Just a faster connection, a really fast connection to make things faster. You know, fast speeds, quick reaction times, better bandwidth. That's all we get sold on. And we get sold on the 5G home and the 5G mobile phones. And you think about all the mobile phones...
It's from a telecommunications standpoint, it's mainly selling the carrier side of things, how, you know, quicker downloads, quicker media transfer rates, streaming services, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's just a faster mobile connection, a faster mobile service. All the bells and whistles that you could think of, you know, download a movie in 4 seconds. It's just, for any tech people that use internet and stuff, it's unbelievable. It's so awesome. It is the greatest thing in the world. I also want to point out that Optus in Australia has fake 5G. So basically, you know, 5G is being sold as the awesome new advancement, the new generation in technology that just makes life faster, and makes life better, and it's the next stage in our technological evolution. Sounds fucking awesome. Sign me up. I want to be fucking part of that, because I want a better connection than my ADSL. That's
very much from a consumer standpoint. So I think for a lot of people, that's where their opinion kind of starts and ends. From a consumer level, I guess it's all hunky-dory. It's all about the speed increases, and that's the main selling factor that a lot of these carriers are pushing out. But there is a difference, because there is a electromagnetic spectrum, and all of these, like you said, fake 5G. I think fake might be a bit harsh of a term, but it's basically, it's not as high a millimeter frequency as... Okay, let me explain this fake 5G that we're being sold by Optus. So basically, 5G uses the millimeter wave spectrum, which is part of the entire electromagnetic spectrum, from gamma rays all the way down to low frequency radio waves and stuff. So 5G is being sold in the millimeter wave frequency band. Because the frequency is higher, data can transfer faster, but not as far. So it's limited. But Optus, if you currently right now sign up to the 5G plan and you get a 5G phone and connect to the 5G network, you're not actually getting this higher frequency band. You're just getting the same 4G band, which works in the 2300 megahertz and the 3500 megahertz frequency bands. The same LTE 4G that we use right now, only your data gets split between both of those. So rather than trying to jam all your data onto one of those frequencies, it gets split between the two and therefore transfers faster. But it is not using the millimeter wave frequency, which is the actual frequency band for 5G. That's a very important distinction, yeah, because and I think when I encounter people kind of discussing 5G, almost never in the conversation do they bring up millimeter frequency and what frequency exactly are we referring to, what carrier, what frequency are they operating in? Because as we saw from one of the auction charts, that they are still reserving a whole bunch of frequencies for companies to use.
So in China, in the US, and I think some places in the UK, well, UK is working with Huawei to develop their 5G network. And that is all based on the actual millimeter wave frequency. But Optus, because the AMCA? Is that our telecommunications company? The Australian version of the FCC?
Mm-hmm.
So our telecommunications company hasn't actually opened up the millimeter wave frequencies for commercial use. I think it's in 2021, I think they start the auctions, which means, Optus has to pay or auction, buy the use of the millimeter wave frequency band. So we will end up getting the millimeter wave frequency band. But at the moment, all the consumers, anyone who gets a 5G phone, anyone that signs up to the 5G network is not getting the millimeter wave frequency 5G network. They're getting the 4G network. They're getting the information split between the current 4G frequency bands, which somehow makes it travel faster because, the data is being split and then converging back on the receiver. I'm not a fucking technician, but that's not 5G. That's 4G plus.
Well, it's just a faster version of 4G, kind of repackaged as 5G. Yeah,
that's all it is, yeah.
So I guess, if we want to bring it back to, just to empathize a bit with the people that are concerned about the adverse health effects, which we won't get into what the actual effects are necessarily, but they are more concerned with the actual higher millimeter frequencies, which studies have been shown that there starts to occur some change in the body, or some activity in the cells can actually be affected by too high a millimeter frequency range. Well, that is when you're exposed to them. So that's one thing, because I hear the argument dismissed so many times, 5G is safe, 5G is safe. Well, I don't think it's unsafe necessarily, but what exactly do people have to back that up? I'm very curious. A lot of people say, there's over 50 studies done on the effect of non-ionizing and ionizing radiation from devices, and there's found to be nothing. But people are quoting some very old studies. The last cell phone study was done 10 years ago. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are studies out there, but there's not enough studies. They're not recent studies. They're not up to date with the current technology. And they only measure small amounts in certain aspects of it. So I'd really just want to jump into the whole thing that when people talk about the health effects, and when people bring up their concerns about the health effects, especially, and back when mobile phones first came out, the same with microwaves and all that, is we get worried that it's going to give us cancer, that the radiation in these devices are going to affect our DNA and cause cancers.
I mean, that's kind of the fishy thing, though, just on a side note, because even if you did die as a complication from having a device too close to you cumulatively for too long, it'd probably be such a hard thing to pinpoint anyway.
Well, but that's, it's one of those things that, yes, it can happen, but it's such a small chance. One in 10 million people are going to actually get a cancer caused by their mobile phone. But it does happen. It can happen. Now, it was actually really funny when I read up this this article here by the Sydney Morning Herald that's titled "Meet the Anti-Vaxxers of Tech Fighting Telstra Optus 5G Rollouts." Instantly, they've sort of found a way to link anti-vaxxers and 5G conspiracy theories. Oh, I said it. I said the C word.
Total hit piece, by the way. Yeah.
Total hit piece. But I like definitely one of the things that they quote her on saying, or one of the quotes in here, says she links the 5G towers to possible side effects such as anxiety, depression, and DNA damage, and also warns it will be a full surveillance system. Now, definitely it's a concern. Definitely there's risk. Like I said, the towers themselves are dangerous. I work sometimes near these towers, up on rooftops, and we have to actually get written confirmation that these towers have been turned off. Otherwise, you will fry from the inside out in front of these towers.
Absolutely. So I'm just pulling up something now. How this is from a CNET article about how because of the obstruction and how 5G can't really penetrate a lot of barriers, they're going to have to install more little boxes on more corners. So there's a higher density of them placed around as a grid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
On every corner, yeah. When we talk about frequency, this lady points out possible side effects such as anxiety and depression. Now, those things are caused, it's a brain thing. It's a thing in the brain. I'm not going to argue whether it's real or whether it's a disease or a disorder, but it's definitely a thing, and it happens due to the brain. And what is the brain? Electrical signals. What does electrical signals create? Electromagnetic fields. It's all energy. It is all part of the same shit. And here we are pulsing these electromagnetic fields through our bodies, to the point that I say it's got nothing to do with any physical effect. And I don't want to start sounding kind of spiritual or some shit, but like I say, I feel it's more scientific, because if electromagnetic fields exist in science, proven by scientists, we know they exist. We can see light. We can watch our food cook in a microwave. We can see through our bones on an X-ray at a hospital. So we know that electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic spectrum, it all exists. Scientifically proven. So the shit that happens in the brain, the shit that happens in the body, exists as well. It's all the same shit. It's all part of the same stuff. And here we are, artificially creating these electromagnetic fields through devices that just flow in and out of our bodies. We get told don't stand too close to a TV. Some people say don't hold a phone up to your head, because the frequencies, these electromagnetic frequencies, in some way have to be affecting our brain, our bodies, our whole, our own energy.
Energy field, yeah. And it's weird because, a lot of people dismiss this sort of stuff as pseudoscience, and rightly so. Like, there's a lot of new age mumbo jumbo, but it's not that crazy. It is actually scientifically proven that there are electrical charges in the brain and the body. I do think we emit some sort of a mini kind of field around us. We are reflections of everything. So, like, we have our own electromagnetic frequency, and if we are in an environment where we are pretty much in the way physically of all of these signals being carried, I mean, who's to say there's no interaction with us on a mental level?
Yes.
How can you just say 100%? This is what annoys me. People that just say beyond the shadow of a doubt they know that it's safe, and I'm like, how do you know
because they only test on that physical level. They test the DNA, and if they see that there is no damage to the DNA, they say that it is safe. And what do? They go and put it on a big infographic on a website and say tested and proven that it's safe. So here's Optus's introduction to EME safety, the nice big infographic. It talks about where 5G fits in the electromagnetic spectrum, and they're showing the non-ionizing radiation, which is what we've said before. Non-ionizing, it does not cause damage to the DNA. We know that. all the way from static electricity through to visible light, actual light, shit we can see, all the way to X-rays and gamma rays, shit that comes from the sun, which after visible light starts becoming ionizing radiation, which can cause damage to the DNA. But it is all part of the same electromagnetic spectrum. It is all the same shit. Raytheon could tell you this. But yeah, like I say, when they do health tests, they test for the physical damage. And then they can say, when they've proven that there's no physical damage to the DNA, they can put a big bold text in quotation, say, contrary to some claims, there are no established health effects from the radio waves that the 5G network uses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's safe. It's safe because it's just been proven, medically proven, that it's safe.
Well, to use my extreme joke, they pretty much go, well, you didn't die from it, so it's safe. It's just a lot of how a lot of medications are done that way as well. And I just want to really quickly show as well this article here from CNET, how, and it just kind of legitimizes the argument that we have, how it's not just a bunch of crazy people that are trying to prevent society from progressing. I mean, there are professors of bioengineering and people in universities that are openly saying that there needs to be more systematic reviews. This is severely under-researched. And most of the studies to do with cell phone radiation, people are quoting the same 2011 study that is severely outdated. You know, as it says here, it took, nearly 30 years before it was exposed that cigarettes cause, lung cancer. Like, it took that long. So here we are with new technology that's barely been tested, and people have the audacity to say the science is settled and it's safe. I think it's really, really, really narrow-minded.
It goes right back to what we're saying at the start of the podcast, how the majority has the support of other people. So when everyone talks about the settled science, they go out and say, all these scientists have said this, all these health experts have said this, therefore it must be true. They pump it out, they pump it. All these people have said this, therefore it must be true. But there's actually other medical experts, other scientists that say the complete opposite. But
Hundreds of thousands.
But they get dismissed because they're part of the minority.
Which is silly.
And
it's actually not a minority. I think that there are very big grassroots movements of people that are critically thinking and wanting to ask questions. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to show just how bad some of the mainstream news is when it comes to pumping out propaganda about 5G. I think it's propaganda anyway, because these are quite obviously borderline paid advertising from these freaking telecommunications networks. This is Optus's explanation on how 5G is regulated. And it pretty much says all of Optus's sites are regulated, independently tested, and comply with science-based standards and international recommendations. So, I mean, their whole explanation for how 5G is actually regulated is just telling you that they comply with science.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the type of lazy fucking reporting. And then it goes into, this is bottom of the barrel type shit, but it's going into who is spreading, who is responsible for fake 5G news. And it paints it all as Russia Today doing it. This is the type of nonsense where it's associating, critical thinking with certain types of media establishments. But it's crazy.
But also read that last paragraph. Open it back up if you can. So that last paragraph saying, RT said the 5G network poses risks including brain cancer, infertility, autism, heart tumors, and Alzheimer's disease. But there is no scientific proof to support this. And that's exactly what we just said. is that the physical effects of this technology, there are none. There are no physical effects. We're talking about beyond the physical.
Yeah.
You know, is electromagnetic frequencies physical? Like, how come I can't touch them? It's coming out of my phone. It's coming out of all these devices here. It's coming out of my my extender that's right there. It's everywhere. It is flowing through my body. It is traveling. Somehow it goes from downstairs through a fucking 2-foot concrete floor up to my computer. It is everywhere. But we have to dismiss it because there's no physical effect.
Just before we move on, one last point as well, that you know, when people express their concerns about 5G, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily one of those people, but what I do find, I guess, annoying to me is the lack of how specific the argument is. So I just want to drive home again, and this is from, I think this is from CNET's article still, how it's not talking about the low band 4G frequencies. It's talking about the FCC auctioning off higher frequencies in the 24 gigahertz and upwards range, all the way to 50. So a lot of people are focused on this low kind of 4G LTE thing, saying, look, it's not a very high frequency, you know, there's no harms in that. But what is going to happen when we exceed 50 gigahertz? What is the line that we cross where we actually will start to see some physical effects? Or mental effects, you know? Like, do we keep pushing that line? How is this regulated? How are people so sure that nothing is going to happen?
Especially the last thing that this article quoted. Now, I want to say, you know, I'm not like just going... I've read a bunch of articles, and this one stood out because of some of the things that were said in it. So don't just think I've just Googled one article and picked the first one. We've actually prepared this one. Anyway, the last thing that was written is the possible side effects after the anxiety, depression, DNA damage. But she also warns it will be a full surveillance system. And when I heard that, it wasn't the first time that I had heard that. So this is something that's been going, and it spans from China as well. And so we do know what happens in China, but we don't know what happens in China. And we can say what happens in China stays in China. But we all know that China runs a surveillance state, tracking. Everyone lives on a network. Everyone uses a mobile phone. Everyone has they'll have the social credit score system type stuff.
Everyone knows that. No one wants to admit it. Yeah.
No one wants. Well, but it's kind of like we look at it and go, well, that's China. Sucks to be them. We're fine. We don't have that, so you know, let China be China. But the reason is that they developed this technology, this network, this system, this way of this social system. So this is the AMTA, the Australian Mobile Telecommunications Association, a pamphlet called "What is 5G?" So you scroll down on the first page, it says, "What will 5G?" I mean, it gives the first thing saying, you know, 5G is the fifth generation of mobile networks, a significant evolution of today's 4G networks. Just saying, yep, it's the next stage, the next evolution of technology. Whoop-de-doo. What will 5G enable? 5G will enable enhanced mobile broadband, instantaneous connectivity to billions of devices, the Internet of Things, and a truly connected world. For communities, 5G will enable real-time connection of billions of devices to provide a safer and more efficient place to live by enabling things like smart homes, smart cities, smart schools, education, enhanced healthcare, smart and safer vehicles, all coming from the Internet of Things. So basically, they're openly admitting that 5G is going to allow for this real-time connection, this instantaneous connectivity to encompass all of this new technology that we kind of look at and go, oh, it's individually, it sounds really cool. But now you're saying that it's all going to be connected and it's all going to be instantaneous and real time because of the speed of the 5G network. Now, I'll point out that this needs to be the millimetre wave 5G. You won't be able to do this on the 4G networks.
No.
This is the 5G network. 5G enabled mobile technology is set to deliver a $65 billion bigger Australian economy by 2023. And it was only after I read this article and then I saw this pamphlet after I had done a bit of rabbit holing on some 5G information, which included some YouTube videos, because that's a credible source of information. But one of these videos is talking with, I think is a military personnel. I'm not sure, retired military personnel.
Sure. Yeah.
Ex-military personnel. And so he was a special assistant to the U.S. Air Force Vice Chief in 2018. So this guy's he's an intelligent person. He's a military personnel, high-level military official. And some of the stuff that he said, it blew me away.
It shows a side of 5G that nobody is acknowledging.
It shows a side of 5G, the capability of 5G that no one even considers, because everyone is so focused on being able to watch a YouTube video really fast or scroll through Instagram or post to Facebook faster and faster. That's all they care about. That is all the consumer, all the public cares about. But they're not going to stop and consider the other uses of 5G and what it can be done commercially.
And you're starting to see the emergence of the 5G world in China. So you walk into a restaurant after you've ordered your food and a camera picks you up and you say, hey, David, welcome, here's your food, right? So you're starting to get the feel of what a 5G world is. And what is a 5G world? The platform is the network. So this is mobile computing paired with a pipe. 5G is computing and networking combined on the same platform. So this goes away. You walk outside your door and you say Uber. You don't get on your phone and say, I want an Uber. You just say Uber. Camera picks up your face or a microphone picks up you.
Come on.
That's what 5G is. That's what 5G is. And then the Uber shows up. There's a camera on the car that sees you, knows who you are, don't have to ask you your name. You get in and you go to wherever you want. You get out and you go do whatever you want. So in this world, in the 4G world, this is a platform. It's yours, right? You don't want to be part of that, all of that data. Remember we just talked about how do you influence society? You don't want all that data to be out there about what you're doing. Just don't carry one of these, right? Just opt out. In a 5G world, you cannot opt out. Who owns the data? This, you could conceivably say, you lease the data on here you own. If you're getting Google services, you don't own that data. But in the 5G world, not only can you not opt out because it's built around the city, it's not in your phone anymore. Not only can you not opt out, you don't know who owns the data. Everything that you do can be watched.
When the millimetre wave frequency comes out, when it gets auctioned off, when companies like Telstra and Optus, I'm talking Australia here, are available, it's going to open up a world of possibilities for the speed, for the connection, this instantaneous real-time connection of devices, which is the perfect platform to build some kind of tracking, surveillance,
possibly even integrating it. And I know it's almost impossible to get away from the whole Corona thing, but I think the Corona thing has really opened up a lot of this sort of side of things when it comes to surveillance as well, because you hear a lot of talk about certain apps that can see whether you're at home or not, Google asking for more data, things like this.
Well,
and
okay, so
when you connect something as situational like this virus, I'm pretty sure they're going to sell the speed of 5G as a solution. Like if we had quicker tracking, if we could roll out information quicker, if we could track people quicker, if you get access to more of your info, more of your details, we would be able to curb situations like this. And they're going to really sell it to us.
So that's what a lot of people always say to me. I've had a few arguments with some people saying, well, there's companies already track our data. We willingly give our data to companies. I'm not going to name any. When we sign up to Google and Apple, we choose to give our data to those companies. We choose to give it. But that's an after the fact tracking thing. That means our information is onto a database, and should the need come that they need to access that information, they can go back and get it, and they can find out where you were at a certain time, or where you were 2 weeks ago, or what you had for dinner because I look at your Facebook post. But a lot of that is after the fact. It is kept on a database. But what we are talking about here is a real-time, instantaneous network. That is not going to be that you can't opt out of. You are on that data, but as soon as they develop 5G, you don't choose, I don't want that camera to have my face on it. Too bad. Your face goes on it. You've already signed up for these things. We've all got 5,000 plus data points. We all have our own fucking hard drive of all our life's online
like you said,
stuff.
The consent is given per device. So like, when we get a new phone, we give that phone permission individually to select apps that we give permission to access the camera, the mic, or whatever. But when you step outside, the reason the point that where it infringes on your freedom as a person is when you step outside, you haven't agreed to anything, and there's already 5 cameras on you. You hop into your car, that's another tracking device.
Well,
you step
we
outside,
know.
Then your plate's captured.
If anyone's followed, I was going to say, when it comes to surveillance, the cameras around the city that we have, we can't choose not to be on those cameras. We can't choose not to partake in that part. We have no choice. We don't choose that. There are video cameras that we go through. They're running AI. They're testing AI algorithms and AI software on CCTV cameras in Perth. If anyone's watched our
machine learning,
that Mind's Eye episode we did, and then we found one in Perth, and I actually went and stood in front of it and danced in front of the camera. I think we have some footage on Instagram somewhere, dancing in front of this AI camera. So there's an entire network that can be built around the 5G network that we don't choose, that we can't choose not to be a part of.
A lot of companies now selling that smart city. I'm all for stuff that's smart, but when it comes to not giving consent as to how much you're being watched, that's pretty much where I draw the line.